floors and roofs. And then same way, we could build any wall, floor, roof panel that's up to 10 feet by 20 feet, the size of that assembly area, basically. So, I mean, in concept, like what they do is, just the same thing that a construction worker would do. It's just done with the robots, basically.
I think that's the unique thing. When you look at volumetric modular builders or 3D printing, they're actually changing the way traditional builds are done. And that's why it's so hard for them to sell, right? If you look at 3D printing, they're not using lumber, they're using other materials. You have to work around other codes, right? We don't have any of those issues. When you look at volumetric modular, you can only use certain SKUs. The way our model works is an architect sends his drawings to us. We run it through our software, and it gives two outputs. It gives the takeoff, which is the material takeoff, which we send to a general contractor, then he can buy the lumber. So we have full, with great full transparency. We don't take any money, we make no money off the materials, right? Because we give those takeoffs to the general contractor. And then what we do is those drawings are then fed into our robots that have the form, then they can build any form, any design. What we are building out, nobody could have done this even a year ago, partly because AI wasn't developed, right? And so people then had to build hardwares and softwares, and it took a lot of time to do. Now what we're doing is we've got our AI software which will actually task plan for the robots. So the more they do, they will learn on their own how to pick up, how to do these things, right? So right now, our teleoperator works out of this facility. He teleoperates, almost think of it as a video game. The more he does, eventually the robots pick up those paths and they can define those paths on their own, like any AI, like ChatGPT or any other AI. So that's essentially what we're trying to do. We're not trying to replace labor, let's make it clear. What we understand there is a 7 million housing shortage in the United States. We also realize that workforce housing isn't getting done. Affordable housing is a massive issue right now, which we want to address, right? And so, a big piece of it is you can't build to everywhere at a certain cost. It's very hard to do, right? Because we do it with the robots, it doesn't matter whether you're selling it in cash or you're selling it in Bitcoin. The price is consistent, right? Because, right now it's a little bit more expensive to ship out, but it's a lot cheaper than volumetric modular because we send it in our panels and then they can start it on the site. But eventually our idea is think of like a kiosk that we're going to set up around the country. So the founder of this company started this company, Redbox. That was his whole concept. Over the years, he's built 5 companies. Each of these companies, he looks at inefficiencies in the industry and how do I eradicate this industry, right? Why do I need 50 people at Blockbuster selling me movies, right? Why can't I create a software where I can track where the demands of these movies are and I can certain movies are being sold at some, Jewel-Osco. Why would I need to buy some Korean movie and put it in, right? It's just taking up more shelf life, right? And so here's the whole idea. And again, here the whole idea is, right now we have rails. Eventually we're going to move into this position where if there's a demand somewhere where you can't go through traditional roads, it's going to be transportable within 20 days. Our robots will go to that facility, pick up those 300,000 and then we can ship it out. So that's why we don't really care about utilization. We can work on very low utilization. And because it's software defined as well, right? We're not spending a lot of money on the hardware. Of course, the eventual hardware is very expensive. But again, as we go from NF2 to NF5, our idea by the end of this year we'll have 6 of these by the end of next year. We'll have 100 of these, right? The cost is about $400,000 to get all of these anywhere. And they can be about 400 to 500 square foot. So within 8 months, we can recoup our money back in any of these facilities. So that's why, I think that's what we're trying to do. Idea is, our team is how do we make a massive impact at scale, right? That's what we're trying to do. And we come across any codes, right? That's one of the questions that come up is, how do you do this, right? And Tyler can walk you through a little bit when we do the MEPs or when we will. Right now we're not doing the MEPs, so it's going to be in a couple of months. Right now we're only doing the framings, the floors, and the roofs. Then we're going to get into the MEPs. But one of the big things is about inspection, right? And we're going to have on-site inspection as well as we're going to do the 12-month or before the drywall is done when it gets shipped outside, so an inspector can come in and seal that off, right? So it's anything that if you fall under the volumetric code, the 2021 code allows us to do off-site inspection as well. So all of these actually takes care of a lot of the risks that people think about when it comes to off-site code. Any questions, thoughts before? So right now, what Tyler will be showing you and what we're building here with this is, and he'll show you what the magnets are for and how these magnets hold these things down, right? These are very strong magnets, how they work. You see in this toolkit, it's got all the toolkits here to cut, saw, all of that stuff. I'm going to show you some of that right now. But what we are doing right now, as of this point in time, is we're building panelized wall frames, which includes the floors, roofs, and the wall panels. Right?
The whole box.
The whole box. What we are going to do in a month from now is the integrated wall panel, which will include the rough-ins for the MEPs built in. So we'll build all to the entire specification, we'll build the mechanical, electrical, all built into our wall frames. By April of this year, we'll have April or May of this year, we'll have a second form of robots, which is called Dex. This one's called Brutus, that one's called Dex. That's going to be able to go on site, finish the rough-in electrical, so you don't need physical labor to do that. You will also be doing the tiling, and we'll also be doing the painting.
That's this year. That's this year?
That's June of this year.
Wow.
June of this year.
June of this year.
So what that's called a white box edition. So traditionally, if you look at what the labor company, I don't know, who's a GC here?
RTC was supposed to show up at
Okay, so let's ask you a separate question. What's your cost of build as a developer?
That's why we don't really know
So
yet.
okay, so I'll tell you what. I'm from California, right? Cost of build is very high. Okay? But let's take a typical cost of build here. Generally, I live about 20 minutes from here. Where I buy the house, the cost of buying a house is about $240 a square foot, right? So that says if you're buying a 2,500 square foot home, it's generally about $600,000. Is the average purchase price of a house. Not in Glenview. Glenview is a little bit higher. It's about $900,000. If you go further out, it's about $650,000 where I live, right? So that's $250,000. The developer is buying this at about $175 or $180, and then selling it for $250. So if you think about $180 a square foot to build, generally the math is that 60% of it is the cost of materials, 40% is the cost of labor. If 60% is the cost of materials, we don't touch any of that. That's complete transparency. The lumber will get you in touch with the lumber guy. We'll give you the full takeoff. What the great thing about this is, think of us as IKEA. When you buy an IKEA set, you don't know what you're building, but at the end of it, there's never any wastage of materials. There's never any. That's exactly how we think of it. We'll give you the manuals and the format. Your GC or your can build it out on site, and there's never going to be any wastage of materials. So we'll give you so in many ways, the cost will be very good on the material, even though we're not charging anything. We're only charging the labor piece of it. So if it costs you, say, $180 to build, roughly $80 is the labor component, and $100 is the material. So if you think about the $80 of the labor component, at some point by May or June of this year, that white box we're doing, that's going to solve 52% of your trades. So that means generally what a general contractor has to do is he has to go look for these 12 or 14 trades to complete, right? He has to go look for somebody who can do the wall frames. You can do the trim. The problem with that is sometimes they show up, they don't, projects get delayed. Then when you go get construction loans, they screw you up because they say it's SOFR plus 6 or SOFR plus 7. Why? Only because they have no idea what the risk associated, because when a developer says it takes 5 days to complete, it takes 15 days to complete. With us, you're always going to be on time.
On time.
So eventually your construction loans will come down because it will not take. Plus, we're able to do what we're talking about, that white box is 8 days versus 45 days. So imagine the time saving and the interest cost savings over time. But we're going to solve for 52% of the straight. You still have, your GC will still have to go get somebody to get the foundation. We'll have somebody to go install it. We'll have somebody to go do the windows, and we'll have to do all the finishing stuff. But outside of that, full white box will come from us. So for solving 5 of the, say, 14 trades, there's less risk for you from a project management perspective that will get delivered on time.
Oh, what's the difference between a modular build and this type of?
This is also in the modular code. The difference in modular is they'll build the exact, they'll build a house and ship it out. So you can only build to what you can actually move in the highways. Because you can only, here we can do 10 to 12 because we do it in frames, we don't care. The other reason you bring the cost down is because to ship it in flatbed is a lot cheaper than building the entire house here and then shipping
Ship
it out.
the house.
The third is they're limited by what SKUs because of the way they do it. You can only buy, hey, I want that. So it's almost like, looks like you're buying a box for them, right? Because they'll tell you what SKU. Here, you can pick the design, your architect can do anything. You just send it to us, we'll send it in panels, and we'll build a white box on site. So we can build any designs you want, right? So those are the 3 big differences between the volume
And the permitting factor of it, is there a big difference between the permit of the
volumetric
build?
modular.
Yeah.
Not really. In fact, I would say we're probably, we'll fall into the modular code because of the way we're designing it. We're going to have on-site inspections, checking it on-site. Then we'll have people, we'll leave a hole, and they'll do. So we'll create that pathway that people can do the inspection on-site, and then people can do it on-site. So it shouldn't be an issue in terms of how you do it. But there's also lessons will be learned. Certain cities or municipalities are a little bit harder to get across. Cook County is notorious in some ways, right? So, we were having them come to our facility, get them comfortable, right? When Tesla first came out, or I'm sorry, Uber first came out, the concept of replacing the yellow cab is a difficult concept. But then eventually they got the airports to adopt, they built, it's a lesson, and we've started that journey 8 months ago because what we think is this is going to be incredibly disruptive. And so, but it will take some time to get there and get people to start feeling comfortable around that. And we're getting, local Congress people coming and getting buy-in from a lot of that and pushing that across. That's right.
How about the unions? Are you friends with them?
Not really.
Okay.
Because,
Yeah. You're right, because they're taking labor. Okay.
well, but the problem is it's not. If there's 7 million. That's the real question. If there's 7 million housing shortage, right? I ask you then why, if we're really taking labor away, then why is there a 7 million housing shortage, right? It is because a lot of people don't want to get into the trades business anymore,
That's
right?
true. That's
Right? No one wants to do it anymore. Their parents used to do it. There's going to still be a need for an architect. There's going to be a need for it, right? But I'd say a lot of people don't want to get into it. Workforce housing isn't getting done. Prices are going up, right? And so, I believe we'll end up getting grants and other things. We'd love to work with union trades. I don't think our idea is to replace and take people's food away.
Right.
But what we're trying to solve is a bigger issue. Is houses are just not getting built because it's getting so expensive, and you just can't do it in your traditional way. Right? If somebody wants to build it in some small town in Idaho, there are no workers there, and BMW wants to build its factory there, they can't build their factory there because there's no workforce housing there. So the entire economy of the state isn't growing because there's no housing.
no-
So everything's kind of restricted because there's no labor out there.
Mm-hmm.
And, and with this current administration, we don't know what's going to happen with the border. And so whatever little labor, cheap labor is there, that might also be constrained now too, right? And so that's another big concern in terms of, well, some of this production is getting done now, but what happens 12
Later.
months from now?
So,
How-
I have a quick question.
Sure.
So you still have to finish the outside of the house, right?
We have to
Whether-
install the house.
Uh-huh.
We have to do the install. We have to do the external sheathing. The GC will have to arrange all that. So that's what's not in our white box.
Right.
The install, as well as the internal finishing, and the initial foundation will have to be done by us.
Okay, so, I'm still not seeing all this inside. So we'll still have to do the outside, whether we decide to frame it, whether we decide to brick it, or whatever, how does that work?
No, we send you the wall frames. It's a white box solution, so all of that is going to be finished. Somebody just has to install it, right? What I'm saying is after the drywall, the external sheathing, that's the only thing we're not touching.
Okay.
But the install, like you still need a crew of 4 to install these on site, like you would. Like you think about, we'll send you the manuals. It's generally, I think it costs about $1.25 per square foot. We broke down the cost. $1.25 a day to break down the cost of installing. But like when I said, hey, we're solving for 52% of the labor, there's still aspects that we're not touching,
Yes, yes.
right? We're not going. But when I think of a GC from a GC's perspective, if I'm doing half his work for him, he doesn't have to go find all these trades anywhere. He can grow his business so much faster. For a developer, it's more interesting because I can get this much faster, so my interest costs come down. So it's a win-win for both, right? Then the other way I think about it is think about the liability risk. You've got guys who are building on top of massive roofs. If somebody gets hurt, right, there's the insurance risk, right? Contingency risk. The interest cost, the time savings, right? Plus, if you're a developer and you're taking bank debt out to fund these loans and you're using your own equity, you can roll that equity much faster if you can build it much faster, right?
Yeah.
So to me, that's a big plus, right? Because hey, if 9 days I can roll it and I can move on to my next project versus sitting on it for 3 months, that's wasted money that you're just sitting on. Not just the debt, but your own equity is getting, you can roll your equity much faster.
Yeah.
So let me should understand like 180K for the build out per foot. 180 foot.
And that's just an example, right? I'm
Yeah.
just,
60% of that is material.
that is generally always material, which we don't touch, right? Material is whatever lumber is, right? The cost of buying the lumber, standard lumber or whatever we'll buy it. Usually when you buy it from a GC, he charges you a markup.
Right, exactly.
Right. But right now, I'll tell you what the takeoff is, and I'll get you the contract directly from the thing.
If you're buying it at cost.
You cut out the middleman in the middle.
Then on the labor piece, what we can, your GC might not agree to that. But that's your debate with your GC, and you can keep them honest on what the cost is here, right?
Because otherwise, if they're just giving you some random number. Hey, this is X%. How do you know what the actual takeoff is? Very easy will know. What we are solving for is the labor piece, which is the 40%. We solve 52. We will solve 50% of that 40%.
So,
And you only build in Illinois or where?
We just shipped out our first houses to San Diego.
Oh, okay.
So, I'm from California. All my connections are in California. I love the Bay Area. The reason California works, they're building at $350 a square foot.
$350 to $350 per square. So for me, the cost to build is the same.
Imagine my markup in California when I send it.
Mm-hmm.
Even with the shipping, it's $3.50 per meter square. Right?
to California. It's only $1.25 to ship it anywhere in Illinois. And yet, I still make so much more money in California than I do. Just because the cost is so good. And this with the whole fires in LA, and there's a whole need out there, right? So that's why we want to build our next facility out in somewhere between LA and San Diego.
You're looking to build more than just houses, like businesses, like
Right now we're playing in the residential code because somebody asked about permitting. You know, the fire hazards and all that stuff is business. To get around the permitting, it will be hard. And so we're just trying to be transparent. You know, we've got, you know, for us, there's such a big upside on just doing houses right now. It's such a big need. Eventually, we'll look at anything, right? Our robots can build anything. But it's more about where the government comes forward and makes it easier for do it. It's much easier to do it on the residential side now than it is on the
so you go up to 4 units.
I think we go up as many as Oh, you mean for the residential code?
Right,
Yes,
yeah,
just
right.
within the residential code, correct. From a robot's perspective, we go anywhere, but yes, we can only go up to 4 units because of the residential. Resell value. Well, that depends on what location you go. So, a house could be, it depends on where you go, right? You go to the net couple Met, houses are starting for $400 a square foot, $450 a square foot. You know, where I come from in California, it's $1,600 a square foot. In Glenview, it's about $300 a square foot. So if the build cost is 180, the developer is 50%, for us, our prices are exactly at par with what your other builders do. Except we do it faster. So what you're getting from your subcontractor, again, depends, right? In California, we're 40% cheaper. Here, we're probably at par, maybe 5% more expensive. But when you factor in how much faster we do it and all this, we're giving you a premium product at almost market price. Much faster with lower insurance liability risk, and from a GC's perspective, we're solving half of the trade. So if I'm a GC, if I'm a developer, I'm thinking, why do I give my business away to a GC? Why don't I become a GC? Because if I'm solving 50% of the trades, go find the trades yourself. So go find the trades yourself, and then why give away your markup? Because right now I'll solve 50%. You only have 50%, so you only have 5 more trades to solve for versus 15 trades to solve for. So what our product will allow is any developer to become a GC.
Something currently in the process that maybe we can go out and see what we actually
Yeah, I think we have some pictures of the one we just sent to San Diego. I don't know if you want to fly all the way to San Diego to see it. We haven't done anything in Illinois so far.
Okay, that's my answer.
On the actual build that we did, the first ones we did in San Diego. I don't think we posted it. If not, we can figure out a way to do it.
And get some wind. Big test.